Hey guys, Alf here. Last night I went to the theater and saw a preview screening of the film My Friend Dahmer. I'll say right off the bat, I loved this film. It was great. I think a lot of people might not like it though, because they might go in with the wrong expectation of thinking it's like a true crime film or a horror film. I've even seen it noted as a horror film, and it's really not at all a horror film. There are maybe some small inklings of horror and maybe maybe some scary parts, but not really. It's really more of a case study on the life of a young Jeffrey Dahmer right before he becomes a serial killer. So you never actually see him kill a person. I don't know, spoiler alert. I guess that might be a spoiler, but yeah, you never actually see him kill a person. I guess that's not really a spoiler. That's just letting you know that this is not a horror film, so you don't go in with that expectation. The film is an adaptation of a comic book written by a guy named John Backdurf, who goes by the name of Durf. He was actually a friend of Jeffrey Dahmer in high school, so he wrote from his own personal experience of what his life was, what if his experiences were around Jeffrey Dahmer and being his friend in a group of friends, a group of four friends. So the movie is basically a really accurate adaptation. They did their best to make it as accurate as possible, and it really shows. Um, Another thing that's really good about the movie is its comedic element. There's some really funny things, and it's not like meant to be a comedy. It's funny things because we're following the life of four teenagers, and teenage boys are senior in high school. They goof around, they make crack jokes on each other, bust each other's balls, but what makes it really funny and dark at the same time is some of these jokes they make kind of like foreshadow the future. Calling him a freak, calling him, homo and stuff like that. Without knowing that he was gay or without knowing that he was a freak, then they call him these things, and it makes you laugh. And, just boys messing around, but they don't know what's coming ahead, and neither does Jeffrey Dahmer himself doesn't know that in the future what he's going to do. And, after high school, how he's going to become a monster. And that's a great part of this movie, like these weird things that make you laugh, but you probably shouldn't laugh because it's really fucking dark and monstrous, but it still makes you laugh. It's unexpected, and it catches you, and you think about what he's gonna become, and it's very poignant. Um, the other thing is, the actors were all really well. Anne H plays the mom, and she does a great job. You never know what to expect from her. His mom was loony, and she always had like a different personality. When she popped up, you never knew when she was gonna be angry or happy or fly off the handle or just ignore everyone and do her own thing. It was very unexpected. The father, I don't remember who played. I don't know, remember the actor's name, but he was really good too. Very strange, like emotionless kind of, and just very quirky and almost kind of like Jeffrey Dahmer himself. Then the kid who played Jeffrey Dahmer, he's a Disney star apparently. I don't know him, but he did a fantastic job. He played that role great. Um, but yeah, the movie as a whole was fantastic. I think that people will really enjoy this film if they give it a chance and not go in it with the expectation of it being a horror film or watching wanting to go see a serial killer who's gonna go around and stalk people and kill them. It's not gonna satiate those people. Satiate? I don't think that's right. It's not gonna sate those people. But in the end, after the film, the director Mark Myers was there, and he did a question and answer period, and also like discussed the whole thing of the film. It was really interesting because he talks about how they tried to make it as accurate as possible, and how Durf tried to make his comic book as accurate as possible. So this guy wanted to make the film just like that and make it as accurate as possible. He even like directed it so that like certain panels from the comic were shown in the film. Not that you see the panel of the film, but he used the panel for inspiration for shots and stuff. And direct lines from it, and the way the characters acted is just straight up like the comic book. And this guy Durf had written this comic book years ago. It didn't take off, and then I think in 2012 he redid it, made it longer, and even studied more into it. Like went back into his own memories, his own journals from the time, his drawings that he made at the time in high school. Like he's a character in the movie. He's obviously he's one of the friends, and his two friends. The group of four of them, they were all characters in the movie. So he went back and studied everything. He went through the FBI files of what Jeffrey Dahmer said himself he was doing in the time period. So it's kind of crazy to think that you have this friend and you were hanging out with him, and you find out years later in the 90s, from like 1976 is when this movie takes place, and Jeffrey Dahmer was caught, I think, in 1991. So it's not till 20, 30 years later you discover like the things he was doing while he was your friend when you weren't around him. These creepy things. Like hurting animals and putting them in jars and melting their flesh and shit. So yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that all those things. So he went to FBI files. He got all the stuff that Jeffrey Dahmer said he was doing at that time period, the stuff that he experienced. He called up his other two friends from the group and got their stories and corroborated stories and got stuff all together to make the story as accurate as possible, to get his home life, how he acted in high school and all this stuff. And it's really great. The other thing with the accuracy is they filmed it in the actual town. They went to the high school, which is now a junior high, but they got to commission that school and film there. So they filmed in the actual high school. They found his house. Durf. He met the director. Mark met up with Durf, and he took him to the actual house. When they visited the house, they find out the owner is the singer of a band. Oh no, maybe not the singer. I think he was the guitarist for a band called the Waitresses, and he was actually bought the house because of the history. And he was totally cool with the filming, and they got to use the actual house. So when you see the house in the movie, that's the actual house that Jeffrey Dahmer grew up in, and these things were happening in. The woods around it, that's exactly where it was. There was a shed that he would use to store the animals that he was melting. They found the debris of where it was and rebuilt it in that area so they could have the same exact place. They spoke to people in the town to find out about him, and they used all the same exact locations. They during filming, they got, Durf was there during filming. The other two friends were there, and they all came. They have cameos in the film, and they helped to make it as authentic as possible, what life was like in 1976 in that town in Ohio, what all of them acted like, and stuff like that, the little jokes they would make. It was extremely accurate. So that's one of the things that's really great about this film. It was directed very well. The actors all did well. Fantastic film altogether. I think everybody will enjoy this film. Durf was also big into Akron punk. At that time in 1976 in Akron, there was a big punk scene coming up. It was just starting up, and there was a big punk scene in that area. So Durf himself is a punk fan. He's actually kind of big in making that, where he made a comic book about punk in that era in Akron, Ohio at that time. And but he gave the director a playlist. So he took that playlist. He basically put songs in the film to go with that playlist, the songs they were listening in the car and in the background as well. And not only that, he found the DJ who was the DJ at the time that would play these punk songs, and spoke to him. And the guy looked through the list and said, yeah, these are the exact same songs. We would always play these. And on top of that, he got him to be the DJ in the movie too. So when they're listening to the radio and you hear the DJ, it's the same guy. And it's amazing how they went through all this to get it so accurate. It's really good. So all in all, great film. I think you should pick up the comic book as well. The comic book's a great read. Very interesting if you're interested in serial killers, or you're interested in how people snap, or to watch how a person can slowly deteriorate based upon their environment and their background and the things going on in their life, and how people deal with the stress of things happening around their lives, when they have nobody to talk to and nobody to relate to. Jeffrey Dahmer was really yeah, it actually humanizes him in the film, which I never thought of before. I've never humanized Jeffrey Dahmer. I've read about him. I've seen interviews. I've never humanized him before. This movie humanized him. I kind of felt bad for him. And it's we shouldn't feel bad for him. We shouldn't apologize for the things he did. He's a fucking monster. But you do feel bad for him. You see how he was treated. You see how he had nobody to talk to, no way to express his emotions. So that was his way of expressing his emotions, the weird things he did. And I think his character, when you see him in the film in high school, I think we can all relate to that, as in whether it's you relate to him because that's how you were in high school, kind of an outcast or an odd person who was sometimes funny and had very few friends, and people saw you as being weird and quiet even though you were sometimes funny, or you knew somebody like that in high school. I remember people like this in high school that people rarely talked to. Sometimes they would be funny, but they'd be quiet and maybe wanted to tag along with people, but they weren't able to because people didn't accept them and stuff. So you definitely get a feel for this character. I mean, he's a real person, but you definitely get a feel for him, and it does humanize him, make you feel kind of bad for him. there are situations in the film where you don't feel bad for him and you're like, oh, this guy's gonna snap and do some crazy shit. But you know, that's I won't spoil it and tell you if he does or not. You got to watch the film. All in all, watch it. It's fucking awesome. I think everyone will dig it. And yeah, that's all I could tell you about it. Go give it a watch. Check out stuff about Jeffrey Dahmer when he was. I think I was 12 years old when he was caught. It blew me away. I thought it was crazy the things he did. Probably the craziest, most modern serial killer. Like I think the only person that was kind of like that was Ed Gein. But Ed Gein was like what in the 40s and 50s. Like this was 1991. I was 12 years old, and we're like, whoa! Like this guy was doing this shit, crazy. So oh, and I forgot to mention like with him dealing with stuff, he was also gay in 1976 in Midwest, America and well, Middle America, I guess, and not knowing how to express that, that his emotion. He didn't have anybody to relate to, and he didn't know how to express his sexual feelings. That also is something that's that would trouble a person, and you feel bad for him, but it's what he does later on, so you can't totally feel bad for him, I guess, and it's not a way to deal with your problems, but yeah, yeah, that's basically it. Sorry if I'm not editing this, so sorry about me babbling and going back and forth and maybe having cut silent moments, because I don't feel like editing it, and I want to get this out quick because I have another video I want to do that's really long, and it's going to take a long time to edit. So this is a quickie. I wanted to get it out before this film comes out, and it's still fresh in my mind. So yeah, if you're interested in serial killers, this is the movie for you. If you're interested in how somebody snaps, this is the movie for you. Goddamn phone. All right, guys. So thanks for watching. Happy Halloween, and I'm out. Alpha out.